I'm Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And if you're a regular watcher, you may have guessed what this video is going to be about because I'm in my storytelling chair again. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, yeah, the 23rd of April was World Book Night. Now, you may have heard of World Book Day, where children dress up as their favourite book characters, take their favourite books to school, and we all work really, really hard on making children discover that reading can be really fun and that books can be just for pleasure. Well, World Book Night is kind of her cool older sister who is aimed at the adults. You don't have to dress up, although I suppose you can if you want to. It's all about showing adults, just the same as we do with children, that reading can be really, really fun. It is run by the Reading Agency on worldbooknight.org, and if you pop onto their website, you can download loads of free audiobooks on there as well. And audiobooks definitely count as reading. Ebooks are reading, audiobooks are reading, paperbacks are reading, hardbacks are reading. It doesn't matter. This video probably could be counted as reading because I'm about to read you a story. I often read you my more fairy tale-ish stories, and I do love to play with fairy tales. They are one of my favourite medium, and I do like to write poetry, and poetry fits in quite well with fairy tales. But today I thought I would read you something a little bit different. I've lost my bookmark. Fabulous. I thought I'd read you something a little bit different today. It is from my book Strange Times, which is the third in the Strange Stories series. But you don't have to read them in order because they're full of standalone short stories. Some of them are a page long, some of them are 5 pages long. You can read one in a minute. Some of them take 15-20 minutes to read. And they're all sorts of different genres. These ones are quite dark, but then all of my strange stories are. If you prefer the less dark versions of my stories, Once Upon a Twisted Fairy Tale is probably more for you than my strange stories. I'm not going to read something horrible and gory to you today, because, you know, children might be watching this. I do write some horrible and gory things. There are a couple of sort of darker ones in here. This does tend towards the darker side. It is a sort of futuristic dystopia, and so it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I wanted to make a change from my usual fairy tales and read you one of my different genres today. This story is actually set in a world where it is on Earth, but way into the future. All of the seas have dried up, and water is a really, really precious resource. And so the people in this story live on what is now our seabed. This story is called Blue and Green, and if you're sitting comfortably, I will begin. I'm not actually old enough for that reference, I'd like to point out. I was never old enough to watch with Mother. I just know that through cultural osmosis. I did think it was a Jack and Ori thing, but apparently it's not. So, Blue and Green. We labour under the midday sun, stumbling over cracks in the parched earth. There's never enough water. They say this was an ocean once, water as far as you can see in any direction. I can't picture it. All we have here are the bleached skeletons of long dead beasts that roamed this place long ago. And plastic. Everywhere the plastic. It's getting harder to find stuff of value now. Our ancestors' trash is our treasure, according to the sign over the gates of Atlantis, but the treasures have long since been picked over. I've been working on this week's offering, a bundle of old toothbrushes worn into splinters, still retaining some of their colour, an old net designed to catch the creatures that lived here back when the planet was blue and green and water fell from the sky, an old pan that I've scrubbed with foil until it shines. I don't think that'll be enough to keep me from being sent above. It may be enough to get me a measure. The woman scavenging the piles in front of me falls to her knees, sobbing silently. She has her back to me, but I see a man check her face for tears quickly before looking away and continuing his scavenging. I'm not surprised her cries are dry. It's been so long since I last saw real tears. None of us are hydrated enough for that. I watch her ribs shudder through her thin black shawl for a moment before turning my face away. I couldn't speak to her even if I wanted to. The sun is so high and so hot, opening my mouth would rob me of the little moisture my body had left. You can talk yourself to death out here. Something stabs at my hand as I search. A razor blade, maybe? Surgical pink plastic wrapped around a shard of rusted metal. It must have been protected from the elements. The handles are common enough, but we rarely see the blades. I add it to my stash and keep searching. When the sun is 2 fists from the horizon, I head towards Atlantis and join the queue. We stand dead-eyed on the salt path, waiting to see if our offerings are enough to keep us off the farms and earn our keep. The woman in front holds her skeletal child on one hip, her bag of offerings hanging from her belt at the other. I can tell from a glance that it won't be enough to keep her and the child in water, much less food. I'm unsurprised when I hear her begging with the overseer, pleading to stay down here as a scavenger. Please, we have no one. The farms already took her dad. She isn't even 3 yet. How will she survive alone? Should have thought about that before you had kids you can't afford, says the overseer in a bored tone. You go through there to be processed to go up. She goes through there, back to the piles. The child is unceremoniously dumped out next to the queue by a guard, clutching at the half-measure of bottle of water that her mother's offerings had managed to buy her. She stands for a second, uncertain of what to do, then sits and starts to wail for her mother. I watch until someone in the line behind me breaks and leaps at her, licking the tears from her face. Stealing property in the sight of Atlantis is a capital crime, but bodily fluids are fair game. I look away as more people surge at the child. Next! My turn. I head into the entrance tent. It's always cold in here. It was said that those who could afford to live in the city itself enjoy air cooled by machines. Somewhere beyond one of the 3 doors, I can hear running water. I give the overseer my name and identity number and lay my wares on the table. It isn't much, but it's more than the woman in front of me had, so I'm hoping it'll buy me some water at least. He sucks in his breath as he consults his clipboard, a sort of reverse whistle. It says here you're a good gatherer. Why haven't you got as much as last week? I was robbed 2 days ago, I say truthfully. It won't happen again. You'll need double next week if you want to stay down here, he says. I've made a note of the debt. I relax a little. He isn't going to send me up. A half measure, a portion of cashews, a handful of sorghum and a sweet potato. And that's me being generous, because I always did like you. Thank you, sir. I try not to despair. A half measure in this heat. I sweated out more than that scrubbing the damn pan. He opens the middle door, directly behind his counter, and I'm engulfed in frigid air. My skin prickles and bumps. Beyond, I get a glimpse of clear, fresh water shooting into the air, surrounded by people. Clean, sweet-smelling people with soft hair and smooth, unweathered skin. The fountain. Water just for the sake of it. I'd be angry if I had any energy. Then he's back with a small box. I grab the half bottle of brown water and gulp down a mouthful as I screw up the courage to ask. I wonder, sir, if I might ask after my brother? He's been up there for a while. Information isn't free, you know this. What will you pay? Of course, nothing is free. I stare into the box as if I can suddenly make it contain more. Then I hand over the sweet potato and tell him my brother's name and identity number. The overseer checks his clipboard. Dead. Puked himself to death. Altitude sickness. It happens. I pick up my box. Thank you, sir, I say, and then head out. The child is gone. I don't allow myself to think about it. Won't allow myself to dwell on how it should have been me. I've always been stronger than him, not that he would admit it. He should have taken my stash like I offered. Let me be sent to the farms. I think back to our whispered row in the queue. We scavenged together. We should split the stuff equally, I'd said. No, love, I don't want to risk you. I'm older. I promised Mum I'd look after you. I can look after myself. I know. That's why I know you'll be fine down here. Besides, I want to see what it's like up there, where we used to live, where the ground isn't poisoned by salt. They say there's no junk up there, just plants for miles and miles. Can you imagine that much green? No one ever comes back, Jay. It's dangerous to work up there. I'm sure they look after the farmers, kiddo. They need us. There's always more of us, though. There is always more of us. People and plastic, 2 things the world will never run out of. I'll come back. I always come back. I take myself back up to my place. It isn't much, just some earth walls and a tattered tarp, but it keeps unfriendly eyes off me. It's higher ground up here, and the air is cooler, but not quite too thin. I peep out through the tear in the plastic and look out over the piles, the lights and laughter of Atlantis in the distance. I can see the recruiters from up here. There's always a group looking to build resistance to the leader. The recruiters pick on people who've run out of luck and hope, get them to do the dirty work. Bloody hands at arm's length. It never works out. Atlantis is strong, the leader is well protected, The people in there are well fed, hydrated. We don't stand a chance, not even in numbers. I count cashews, trying to work out if I can live on them alone this week. I could sell my sorghum to the ethanol producers, maybe get some new gloves. I'll need them if I want to avoid getting an infection from the cut on my hand and still do my work. I lay my head on my plastic bag pillow and try not to think about Jay. My last thought before I drift off to a dream world made of water and huge great whale-fish beasts is that I hope that he saw the green. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. As I say, it's a bit different from my usual ones that I read to you because I usually read you fairy tales, but I thought I'd show you that I do other genres as well. And if you enjoyed that, you can find it in this book, which is Strange Times. That is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all those sorts of places, but also on my website, victoriapearson.co.uk. And you can get the other 2 books in the series and my other books on there as well. If you like those stories but don't really like reading books very much, prefer to read on your screen, they are available as ebooks, and you can also find exclusive stories that are only available there on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/vspearson85. I will be back next Monday. Again, I'm no idea whatsoever what I'm going to be doing a video about next week. It's becoming a bit of a pattern on my channel, isn't it? But I'm sure I'll come up with something before then, so not to worry. So I will be here 6 AM UK time Monday talking to you about something, I don't know. But if you can't wait until then to see me again, I understand. I will be here every morning in your shorts on YouTube, taking a great big deep breath to start my day off right. And I warmly invite you to do that with me because it really does make me feel so much better for the day, and I hope that it will for you too. I'll share to you then what I'm grateful for each day, and I love it when you jump into my comments and tell me what you are grateful for. It makes me really, really happy, and I'm hoping that it's helping you feel happier as well. And then as well, assuming that I haven't killed him yet anyway, I will be there checking on Dave, the terrarium, letting you know how he's getting on and showing you whatever kind of maintenance that I have to do on my terrarium Tuesdays. Until then, you have yourself a magical week.